Hello, hey, howdy, how are you? Are you doing good? That's fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that one way or the other. Uh, Welcome to the Market Down podcast, the only podcast on the internet that talks about wrestling from the perspective of a wrestling fan. Uh, my name is Little Karibo, and I am joined by Smosh, and we are here to talk about wrestling. That is a really short intro for me, and I'm sorry, guys, but we have so much stuff to cover, and we don't have time for this nonsense. Our first story, as many of you have definitely seen, and even the non-wrestling fans of you out there have probably seen, a Renegade fan tackled Seth Rollins on Raw this past Monday. And, kudos to the fan. It was a good tackle. He got a long running start, and he took Seth down. And kudos to Seth Rollins, who, by all accounts, from everything we've seen with Seth Rollins, I think we all could say that we thought he would have handled that situation a lot differently. But Seth was incredibly calm, surprisingly so. He did not freak out. He simply wrapped his arms around the fan's head in a not a guillotine, but a guillotine looking hold where he just held him. It was, I believe, trying to even calm the fan down. Seth seemed to never lose his composure, which again is very surprising to hear. And the fan was escorted out. He was arrested by the NYPD. Come on, New York, we need to do a little better than that. Yeah, it was a very crazy situation. The announcers started to acknowledge it because I don't think they understood what was going on yet. They might have thought that it was a work and they just weren't in on it. So they were trying to call it as it was before they realized, and then they just ignored it and never acknowledged it again. And Seth, once it was over, got right back to his feet and started taunting Finn Balor, who was laying in the ring the whole time looking like, I don't know what's going on. You can even see online a picture of Michael Hayes and Becky Lynch standing on the ramp just out of camera shot to make sure Seth was okay. Isn't that sweet? From what we've learned about the fan, I won't say his name because I don't really want to give him that. But he was 24 years old, and he was catfished by someone who was posing as Seth Rollins online, which is not an uncommon thing to happen. It happens to Alexa Bliss. It happens to plenty of wrestlers, including Seth Rollins before. So it's not even the first time that this has happened to him. The fan claims that Goldberg and Vince booked him to attack Seth Rollins, which I think that's the worst part of all of this is the idea of Goldberg being on any sort of booking team because, oh God, that would not be good. Hence why the Fiend is pretty much no longer there. But yeah, I don't want to make too light. I don't want to make fun of this person. Which I know is shocking for many of you to hear. But because I don't like this. I think it's dumb. I don't like when fans do this. I thought it was so dumb when that guy got in the ring and low blowed Randy Orton at a house show, and I forgot what country it was, but this is so dumb. You're not cool for doing this. You're not special. It's not worth it. I don't understand why people do this. You look so stupid, except for the kid who did Batista's taunt and next to him backstage. That was phenomenal. Don't do this, but if you're gonna do it, do that. Don't attack people. People who can kick your ass. Again, kudos to Seth for handling it so well. If this was 20 years ago, the fan might be in the hospital, which is a problem in and of itself. Shut the hell up, Chavo Guerrero, because no one's afraid of you. I would fight you, Chavo Guerrero. I'm not scared of you. There's a lot of wrestlers I would never say that to. Chavo, come on, man. Get the hell out of here. That was the most backwards, outdated logic I've ever heard. Even Undertaker was like, damn, Chavo, you need to chill out with your old school mentality. James, please tell me what did you think of this? I think you're someone who goes to a lot of shows, and I think if anyone understands fan etiquette, it's you. So
First of all, I think we already have the title of our episode. I will fight you, Chavo Guerrero. I think that's, I think, thank you. But guys editing at home, you have your title. You hit the nail on the head about etiquette. And, you know, there are so many do's and don'ts of what it means to be a fan at a show. And this is probably the biggest sin there is as a fan, to break that role that you have as audience member and to physically interject yourself with one of these superstars, one of these wrestlers. It should never be done. I do feel bad for this guy because, you know, there has to be, I mean, I don't want to speculate on the person's mental health. I don't want to speculate on this person's background, but at the very least we could say this person was manipulated and this person was taken advantage of, and this was an unfortunate result of that. I've been to shows with terrible fans before. I've been to shows where they try to take over. I've been to shows where they do not give a shit and are just blatantly disrespectful to the people in the ring. But this is a next level thing, and unfortunately it's happening more and more. And weirdly, it's happening a lot with the Shield guys. Like Roman has had many instances of fans coming at him.
To the head.
The briefcase to the head. Dean has had several. And I think one guy actually pulled a knife on Dean. And, well, Moxley now, sorry, but Shield guy, Dean Ambrose. And Seth has had a couple too. Like, this isn't Seth's first in-ring, like, fan interjection. And I don't know what it is about the Shield guys. I know they're probably the most popular guys on the roster, or during stretches of time they are, but I don't know what it is about them that fans get bold, but it happens a lot and it's very unfortunate. You know, you never want to see stuff like this happen, whether it's the fan who tackled Bret Hart and at the Hall of Fame, or like you mentioned, the Randy story. But back in the day when something like this would happen, it's unfortunate to say, but the guys could get over on a story like this. Like, there's that famous or infamous story of Triple H and Austin wrestling a match. I think it was at a house show, and a fan coming in to attack Austin, and Triple H just levels the guy. He just decimates the guy before the refs and the security could get rid of him. And back in the 90s, you could do something like that. Like, there wasn't the same level of protection for the people doing the run-in. And truth be told, even if there was, it probably just shouldn't happen. Back in the day, that's a story that helped Triple H get over with the boys backstage, because you knew that he'd protect you. But nowadays, you're not going to see a wrestler physically get involved with a fan. Like, it's just not going to happen. Or most of the time, it's just not going to happen. CM Punk slapping the shit out of that guy he thought elbowed him in the head was hilarious, if not tragic. But yeah, I never want to see stuff like this happen, whether it's at a show I'm at or on TV. It takes you out of it. It takes you out of it. That's Seth Finn's story. Like, do I want to see Finn get made to look like a chump? No, but there's a story there. And now I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this fan who decided to take matters into his own hands. And it's just never okay. And fun little story that is me learning my lesson about something like this. No, I've never jumped the barricade at a show. I will never do that. But there was an instance where a young little whippersnapper, young James, was at a Ring of Honor show. And there was a certain referee there who, when he would make his counts, fans would follow with Twinkies. So a young James may or may not have been handed a Twinkie to throw into the ring. And I may or may not have thrown the Twinkie into the ring at the referee. And I may or may not have been asked by security to leave. I did not leave. Things were settled. but I learned a valuable lesson that day. Do not fuck with the wrestlers. Do not fuck with anybody in the ring, even if you think it's harmless. So we all learned a valuable lesson on this podcast today.
So when he says a young James, he means like 25. This wasn't that long ago, but yeah, I think, okay, so first of all, I am fully aware of the small chance that somehow Chavo comes across this. I already know what he's going to do. He's going to comment on the fact that I'm wearing a Pokeball hoodie and try to like demean me like that. And I did this very self-aware of the fact that I'm wearing a Pokeball hoodie and that I have like fucking pop figures and shit behind me. Okay, that doesn't mean shit, Chavo. Okay, if we're gonna take cheap shots like that already, hey, at least I have fucking hair, bro. Like, come on, get at me. We're not sponsored by Keeps or Hims or any of those things, but yeah, I don't feel bad for any fan that like Triple H or Chris Benoit or any wrestler has taken liberties with when they've come into the ring. I do not feel bad for those people. It doesn't mean what they're doing is right. Okay, that's not how that goes. Just because I think the person who got their ass kicked kind of deserves it doesn't mean the person that kicked their ass was right to do so. And it's also a different time, right? That's an infamous case. How much footage can you find of that? You can find thousands of videos of this incident. And if Seth Rollins had beat the shit out of this guy, you know who's getting the money? That guy, ultimately. Like nowadays, especially. Okay, that's so I think Seth handled it as perfectly as anyone could handle that situation. But yeah, Seth is really shown that he has grown a lot and he is becoming the pro that I think everyone expected him to be. So yeah, good for you, Seth. To that fan, you're dumb. Don't do that again. I'm sorry that you got manipulated. You know, like hey, if the person who catfished you gets their ass kicked, we'll all cheer that. You know, like, but people just be smarter. Like the chances of a wrestler inboxing you is very low. So just don't be gullible, okay? And when you get an email from a foreign prince telling you he needs a bank account to keep his money in, you don't answer, or you could answer that if you want, but just make sure you're messing with them and you fuck with them instead of them fucking with you. But yes, that was our excitement of the week that surely has made the rounds to the non-wrestling community. So we had to talk about it. Another thing that happened late last week was that there was more WWE releases. No, not the releases we talked about last episode, but even more releases because, you know, this company doesn't know what to do with all its toys, so it just throws them out and plays with the old. It throws out a lot of the new toys and keeps playing with the old toys. Honestly, it's not even like they're old toys and like, I don't want these anymore, and they throw them out, you know, or they donate them to charity or something. It's like they get new toys and like, I don't. This new toy just isn't the same, so I'm gonna get rid of you. There was a lot of people released. The biggest names were all of Hit Row and Johnny Mundo, I would argue. Then after that, Tegan Knox, Drake Maverick, Jackson Riker, and Slapjack. You may know him as Shane Thorne, but you definitely know him as Slapjack. So with Hit Row, it is kind of crazy because in the last set of releases, B-Fab was released. And for me personally, as someone who hadn't watched NXT in a while, this is my first introduction to Hit Row. And once B-Fab was released and the coolest part of their entrance music was taken out, I lost all interest immediately in Hit Row. So like them getting fired kind of means very little to me, but I do understand that it is actually a big deal and that they did have a lot of promise and potential. I just think that they were instantly ruined the second B-Fab got released, which is funny because B-Fab is someone who definitely needed more time in NXT. but she was like the perfect cherry on top of this package that kind of made it complete. So losing her was already a big hit. And supposedly Top Dollar, who I can't state this enough, is nowhere near as good a rapper as Max Caster, had a lot of backstage heat, or supposedly had some backstage heat, because they re-recorded the music without BFAB. The company already done that, but they did it themselves because, you know, they're rappers, so it makes sense for them to do that. And supposedly the company didn't like that. And supposedly during a rehearsal for the Sami Zayn segment they had 2 weeks ago on SmackDown, he asked them to turn down the music so they could hear what they were saying. And supposedly they said something so bad over the headsets that 3 different producers apologized to him for what he didn't even hear, which has to be some crazy ass shit to have been said. And this is, you know, I'm going to speculate a little bit here. There's been a pattern forming lately with these releases of stories coming out after about the person being difficult to work with. And I'm not exactly saying this is that because, you know, at the end of the day, I can believe some of this because this is the same guy who started one of the dumbest Twitter beefs we've had in recent years in wrestling over sneakers, which, you know, sneakers are fantastic. I'm not saying they're not, but like,
You hear that, Chad? We're not disrespecting you, Chad.
yeah,
I promise, buddy. We miss you.
Yeah, Chad. Get well soon, Chad, wherever you are. But yeah, so I could honestly believe that he is someone that will rub people the wrong way, even if these stories are blown out of proportion, which they it's WWE, so there's always a good chance that they are. So what I want to ask you, James, is do you think, obviously, what do you think about this release before we get into the other releases, but what do you think is next for this group? Do you think they stick together, or do you think Scott branches out on his own? Because I'm not sure. I think Scott might go out. So on his own, what do you think?
I think Scott Strickland, right? That's who he is when he's not Isaiah Swerve.
Wasn't he Kill Shot in Lucha Underground too?
Yeah, it's Shane Strickland, Isaiah Swerve Scott, Kill Shot. Okay, there you go. The man of many names.
A lot of S's though. A lot of S's.
So many S's. I think he's clearly the star of the group. You know, I think like the group was built around him, and I think if he wanted to go out on his own, he would be successful. That said, I think to follow another trend, you already mentioned a trend about these releases, but to follow another trend of these releases here, NXT is proving itself to be a developmental brand, just not really for WWE. They created a group in Hit Row that is without a doubt, like, and I'm with you. I definitely fell off from watching NXT, but when I would tune in, some of the better segments would involve Hit Row. And I think there's money in them staying together. I think if any organization picks them up as a stable, as a faction, they've got a main event player in Swerve. And I think you have an interesting young group that can develop on your television show. And I'd like to see them stick together. If they don't and Swerve goes out on his own, I think the rest of the group would probably benefit from being together. But we'll see. I don't entirely know yet. I think, again, it's just a waste because you had these guys that they weren't doing, like, they didn't have an opportunity to fail. It's not like, oh, you gave them a week, they failed, then time to move on. Nothing happened with them. They didn't fail. They couldn't succeed. It's just time to move on. Time to move on. And it's a shame, but thankfully the talent is there that they will be able to land on their feet wherever they go. I feel like if they stick together as a group, I think Impact is the place to go for them. I think if Swerve goes out on his own, he will thrive in AEW. but time will tell. One of the big things is I try not to fantasy book too early after a release because I need to remind myself people lost jobs, like thankfully the wrestling market is a lot bigger today than it was 5 years ago, but at the end of the day somebody got fired, and that's always unfortunate.
And the market is bigger, but people are being released so much now that the market's gotta be getting a little packed there. It's
Definitely.
especially with ROH in its relaunch or rebranding. So there's options, but there's a lot of competition, and not like competition, like other wrestlers. So many are becoming free agents at the same time. It's a little overwhelming. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think they'll be good in Impact. I think if Scott goes out on his own, then the rest of the group does need to stick together. Otherwise, I think they will flounder if they don't, honestly. But yeah, I don't want them as a group in AEW unless it's just to lose to the Acclaimed and then to the Bucks, and then like that's it. They get the Bobby Fish treatment. They just come in and lose. But the second biggest name that I think arguably you could argue the biggest name, but since one was a group, I want to start with them. The second biggest name was one John Morrison. You might know him as Johnny Mundo or Johnny Impact, but he was released just 2 weeks after his wife got released. And as she so angrily put, they lost both their incomes right before the holidays, and granted financially, I'm sure that they are fine. For the short term, it's still two people, a family losing all of their income in 1 month. In less than a month, they both lost their income, and I don't blame his wife for being mad, especially because, I think most fans would recognize that she is not too old to be wrestling in WWE. But I think this is crazy. I really liked John Morrison. Maybe not his current iteration. I think it was kind of wasted, but like, man, you could have had so many good moments with him. I know he left a long time ago because he had some heat, and there was the whole WrestleMania 27 stuff with Snooki and Trish, and like him taking a weird stand to have Melina, who wasn't involved with the story, I get what they were going for, just I didn't think it made a lot of sense at the time. But he left back then, and he proved himself time and time again in every promotion he went to. Like, he's actually the reason I first started watching Lucha Underground. Ivelisse Angelico and Son of Havoc, I believe, was the reason I kept watching. But he proved himself time and time again, and then he comes back, and he's slotted even lower than where he left, because he left as an upper mid-carder with the potential of floating to the main event, and he just came back as a mid-carder, and the second to the Miz, who I know a lot of people love the Miz, and we're going to technically talk about him later in a way, but I think the Miz is a fucking joke, and like being his second is like terrible. I was not saying Miz isn't a great promo and doesn't have his fair share of entertainment segments, but like you're slotted so low when you're second to the Miz, and he was, I think, dead from day one coming back. So I'm a little. It's sad to see him go, but it's also sad to see how he was since he came back. What do you think about Mr. Mundo being released?
We're on the same page. Like, I grew up watching Johnny Nitro, and then and then John Morrison, and it's a shame that the world sees how good he is, but WWE consistently treated him like a Jannetty when that should never have been the case. It's you and I are definitely not on the same page about Miz. I love Miz, and I think he is a main event talent, but it's sad that How many men can
Main
say
event's a strong word.
how many men can say they beat John Cena one-on-one at WrestleMania? That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. But it's sad that Morrison was brought back just to be his sidekick. And worse than that, the majority of his run back with the company happened during the pandemic.
Yeah,
Most of the stuff he did happened in front of no crowd. And granted, like, yeah, there was a lot of stuff that he did in front of the crowd, both before the pandemic started and after. But his highlights, a lot of them happened during the pandemic, and that's a shame. It really is. And you know, I feel for him. I feel for Taya Valkyrie, and I know that they're both talented enough that they whatever comes next, as soon as their 90 days or their whatever their contract is up, they'll be able to land on their feet and go somewhere and they will thrive. But it's a shame that WWE just could not realize the talent they had on their hands with him, which is, hey, that's WWE in a nutshell for a lot of their guys. But yeah, it's really sad. It's funny because I had a buddy text me yesterday. He's somebody who is a casual wrestling fan. Shocker, they do exist. I'll eat my own words on that. And I guess CM Punk will too. But he is a casual wrestling fan, and he texted me out of the blue saying, "Man, I just read about John Morrison getting released, and I fuck WWE." And shout out to you, by the way, Jordan. This one's for you. But it, like, that speaks to how talented this guy is. Even the casual fans who aren't really there every week, who are seeing this guy getting misused, they are upset that a good talent got screwed over by a company that doesn't seem to care.
Yeah, also shout out to Kevin, who's one of my friends, who's a huge John Morrison fan. We once tried to do wrestling poses on a roller coaster for the picture, and he did John Morrison. Also, he's probably your biggest fan. He loves you on the podcast. Yeah, so shout out to Kevin, and shout out to Jordan, you said, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so shout out to those John Morrison fans. Hopefully he'll make a big splash wherever he goes to. I'm going to switch the order I planned originally, but I want to talk about Tegan Knox next. Tegan Knox was on the main roster for about 3 months. Her and Shotzi beat, at the time, tag team champions Natalya and Tamina 3 freaking times in non-title matches. Never got their title match. Rhea and Nikki beat Natalya and Tamina once, and then got a tag title match and won the tag titles. And then Shotzi and Tegan were just drafted different brands. So what was the point of any of that? So Shotzi got turned heel, which is baffling in and of itself. How are you going to take away the tank from the best thing about Shotzi, honestly? Not that she's not great, but like, bro, it's so unique, so different, so fun. That's something that I think any live crowd's just going to love. Even if they don't know who she is, they're like, oh my God, the girl at the tank was so cool. And you're going to take that away. Terrible. And then Tegan's just off TV for weeks, and then she gets released. And, you know, Tegan's had one of the roughest runs you can have, and that one's not completely on the company. She got a lot of injuries at unfortunate times. She was supposed to win the Mae Young Classic, and she got injured.
Did you see the report about her today that came out?
No, what was the report?
She has apparently been wrestling these last 2 years without an ACL.
Oh my God.
Wait, not oh, like the ACL is a little hurt. No, she's been wrestling the last 2 years without an ACL. I don't even know how that happens.
Yeah, my brain cannot comprehend that right now. I don't understand. I am no scientist, I'm no biologist, but that doesn't make any sense to me. So I already had a lot of respect for Tegan Knox, and now it's, oh my God. I mean, I always felt my biggest personal connection to Tegan Knox is her love for Kane. Kane's her favorite wrestler. Kane was my favorite wrestler as a kid. So, you know, I always liked Tegan Knox for that. I watched her like fangirl over Meet and Came for the first time when she was working in the company, and it was great stuff. But yeah, she had a really rough run of things. You know, she had her moments. Her feud with Dakota Kai was good, if even if it kind of ended abruptly out of nowhere. It was still a fun feud with some good matches. But yeah, now she has been released, and as much as I'm not surprised because again she's had so many injuries, I can understand why the company in their normal mindset is like, well, she's injury prone, like let's get rid of her, even though I think she's a great talent. And I really personally want to see her go to Impact. I mean, no, to AEW because they need her. You know, I think when any of these big women get released, I do want them to go to AEW because they need the support. And they could go to Impact and they would thrive and they would fit right in. But, you know, Impact is fine. They have a great stacked women's division. They do not need more. AEW does. Tegan can instantly feud with whoever the first TNT champion is. She can feud with Britt. She can feud with someone who's not a champion, which would be very nice to see in AEW's women's division. I want her to go there. I think her wrestling style suits there very well. I think she'll make a big impact there. James, what do you got for Tegan Knox?
She is by far, I think, the saddest release. Like, you know, I every release actually really hit me this round, but she just never had a chance given her injury history, and it sucks. It sucks. And I hear you. I agree. It's like with WWE's logic, I get how she made the cut, or she didn't make the cut, I should say. I'm actually kind of surprised that she didn't get released earlier, given everything and how WWE treats their talent. But, you know, she's another one. I agree with you entirely. She would do amazing things in AEW. And no matter where she goes, she is going to shine. Like, I think that's going to be a recurring thing with when we talk about every release here. I think they're all going to shine wherever they go.
You may have spoke too soon on that one.
All right, if you're referencing Slapjack, I've already got a counter argument for you, and we'll talk about it in a second. Oh, you're not? Ooh. See, I'm doing what I don't want to do. I'm fantasy booking about these guys who just got fired. But yeah, no, I think Tegan will thrive when she gets to wherever she's going to go. And for her sake, I hope she takes this time to heal. You know, I hope she just rests. I hope like all of her body is okay. And then wherever she goes, she hits the ground running gingerly on her knee. Gingerly.
Oh man. Yeah. Best of luck to Tegan. She's great. The other, and this is only a big name because of the last time he got released. I don't mean that in terms of like, but the next name is Drake Maverick. He got released, and I say it like this because during the pandemic, he got released and he put out a reaction video to it, and he got really emotional and sincere, and he cried a lot. And, you know, it was a touching video, and because of that, he got his job back, and they brought him back shortly after. And that's a nice feel-good moment. I'd argue that a lot of the other people lost their job, cried about it. We didn't bring them back. So it's a nice moment for him. It's not a nice moment on the company. Let's not give them credit for that. But he did a similar thing, but instead he flipped it around into a hype promo to sell himself for, you know, when his non-compete clause is up. And I think it was a really fun and creative way to approach it this time. So he kind of flipped it on its head. And yeah, I think he's going to be, like you said, with everyone else, I think he's going to be just fine. Other than that, I don't have too much to say on Drake Maverick. I think he's the greatest 24/7 champ of all time, for whatever that's worth. But James, you're someone who I would argue would be in top 3 24/7 champions of all time. So what do you think about Drake Maverick getting released?
First of all, just give me a shot. Just put me in, coach. I will do wonders with that belt. Second of all, Drake is actually the number one guy I'm most excited to see what happens next for him. He is an incredible talent. He is so smart when it comes to his segments, his stuff. He can be funny, he can get the crowd behind him, he can get that emotional support. And I think what's going to be big for him is who he aligns himself with, which will obviously be dictated by where he'll land. But I would love to see him reunite with Matt Hardy in the Hardy family office. I think, like, of all, like, I know the Hardy family office, but I think he's somebody who could bring so much life to that group. He could be the comedic, like, he could be the funny man to match straight man. And I think that would be great. I think if he followed EC3 wherever he goes, because I know EC3 is sort of like this traveling artist right now with what he's intending his career to be. I think he and EC3 could do so much together. He's got a good friendship with Braun Strowman that if Braun ever lands anywhere, I think he'd be a good manager for Braun. So I think Drake Maverick, Rockstar Spud, whatever he's going to be, whoever he's going to be, I think the sky is the limit for this guy. I'm glad that he was able to get that one little last stint with WWE, even if it never really went anywhere. I think he lost so much momentum when Killian Dane got released. But yeah, for those who remember that they were a short-lived tag team. But yeah, nothing but the best to say about Spud, and I cannot wait to see where he goes. I think oh man, it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be exciting and fun.
Yeah, I think what you said about the Hardy family office was actually pretty interesting. I could see him like comedically bouncing off like Butcher and Blade, and I think there's something to it. And to me, I think that would confirm that the Hardy family organization is a mid-card act. And I think just like putting that in stone and not trying to pretend like they're more than that would actually be good for the group. But well put, very well put. You made me more excited than I originally was about him showing up anyway. But the other releases, I really don't have much to say about them, but I'm going to group them together. It is Jackson Riker.
Ooh, okay, there he is. Got me. Okay,
yeah.
Sorry. Yep, okay.
Yeah. And Slapjack. You might know him as Shane Thorne, but man, do we know him as Slapjack. And I think he can honestly go on like the really small indie shows, like the really small local ones, and bill himself as Slapjack and just have fun with it. And, you know, crowds will eat it up. They'll laugh at it. They'll laugh with him, you know, kind of thing. But I know you see more for him than that. But I'm more curious, what are your thoughts on Jackson Riker?
How do I put this politely? Guys, I'm going to do my best to be as politically correct as possible. So here goes. Jackson Riker can go fuck himself. He is not Chavo Guerrero. I am sure he could kick my ass. That said, Jackson Riker, you can go fuck yourself.
I mean, he'd probably just shoot you. You know?
Yeah, it is his MO. It is his MO. Nothing good to say about this guy. I was gonna say I never got why WWE had him in the first place, but of course I do. But the less said about him, the better.
I really don't, because he's not that big. Like he's not good looking. He's not a good promo. He can't like. There's literally nothing appealing about. Like that's my big. I will refrain from any saying anything about his political views. Like I can put that aside. Like, and I think there are plenty of wrestlers who are great examples of someone you can wholeheartedly disagree with politically or as a person, but that doesn't matter when they're a wrestler. But he's not one of those people. But I will put that aside and just say he is so boring and so generic. There's nothing special about him at all as a wrestler. Like, so I really don't see what they see in him. Like, even by their standards, he barely meets any of them.
I didn't even really think he met their standards as a wrestler. What I meant was the thing we're not going to talk about. I don't think it was a problem for them, is what I'm saying. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's more where I was going with it. And I think his biggest sin is that he fucking derailed Elias's push. And I am not the biggest Elias fan, but where the fuck is Elias?
Dude, he derailed the Forgotten Sons, and they got released before him.
That is actually his biggest sin. Those guys did nothing wrong, and they got fired after he opened his mouth. I'm getting heated, guys. I apologize, but just let's all remember, say it with me. Fuck yourself, Jackson Riker.
Yeah,
but
gloves are coming off,
right? But I will say on leaving him in the dust where he belongs. Shane Thorne, I am excited for him. No matter what he does next in his career, it's going to be better than fucking Slapjack. And
I doubt it.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'm hoping he joins his old TM61 partner in New Japan and they tear it up as a tag team again. They were so good. They were such an exciting team. And unfortunately, you know, what was his partner's name? It's Miller, right? Nick Miller. I know him from New Girl. When he left, Shane never really had that chance to sort of develop on his own, but together as a tag team, I think TM61 was incredible. And I hope that they can tear it up together in New Japan, on New Japan Strong. But we'll see. I'm excited for Shane Thorne, and tag team wrestling is good wrestling.
Oh man, we're gonna start making some New Girl references on this show. Oh god. Yeah. So that covers it up for the releases. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about in a couple weeks at this rate because, oh my god, they just don't stop. They love tearing up contracts and just releasing people from them. But speaking of contracts and segues, you know, segues are super easy, barely an inconvenience. Johnny Gargano has a contract coming up, and he signed a small extension on that contract so he can compete in War Games, because there's a War Games match every year. There's 2 every year now. They're not contrived at all. They always come up naturally. And I'm saying that facetiously, but like they do come up more naturally than Hell in the Cells do on the main roster. So, you know, there's at least effort put in there. So I won't make fun of it too much. But I think we're all excited about this. I think we all want to see Gargano face Bryan Danielson like so badly. I think they both want that match. We talked about it last week or the week before. But I think there's so many exciting possibilities. I think maybe not right now because he has a baby on the way, but I could see him going to New Japan. I see so much for Gargano, and like I'm not saying it like when other people leave, or like, oh, they could go to AEW, they could be a main eventer. Like, I don't care where Gargano is on the card. I just want to see him wrestle these people. Like, I'm so excited about it. This should make you happy, James. But I'll take a Gargano Andrade rematch in AEW. That'd be phenomenal. I'll take that. Yeah. But please, James, wax poetic about Gargano and his future endeavors.
Oh man, he was one of the 4, because there are the 4 guys right now that we're all wondering what's going to happen contract wise. It's Gargano, it's Kevin Owens, who I think we're going to talk about in a bit, Kyle O'Reilly, and Sami Zayn. Gargano was somebody who I was just so unsure of. You know, I could have seen him staying in WWE. I could have seen him going to AEW or just leaving in general. But the fact that he signed this extension, so similar to Adam Cole before he left, so he could finish up his story with Kyle O'Reilly, I think this all but cements the fact that he's leaving. You know, he wouldn't have signed a 1-week extension. He would have just signed a new contract. So unless Johnny is so much smarter than I could possibly imagine, and this is a hell of a negotiation tactic, I think Johnny's leaving, and like you said, I don't care where Johnny goes. I'm excited. Like, off the top of my head, the opponents I want to, Bryan Danielson, number one guy I want to see him wrestle. Kenny Omega, need to see that happen. I would love an Andrade rematch. I would love even more. I would love a Malachi Black rematch. Their story in NXT was incredible. And in Impact, I would love to see him versus Josh Alexander, him versus Eddie Edwards, him versus Moose. Oh my God, the matchups. Him versus Jay Lethal will be great in AEW. There is just so much that I want to see, and no matter what happens, I'm hyped for it. I think if I'm any of these companies, if I'm Impact, if I'm AEW, if I'm New Japan, I take the checkbook out, I put his name on it, and I leave it blank and say, name your price. That's how good Johnny Gargano is.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be a big deal wherever he ends up. It's weird. I think I just can't picture him in Impact, but like I also wouldn't be surprised if he showed up there. But yeah, I think like you said, just open up the checkbooks, get him in. He'll be loved wherever he goes, and I think he's proven in NXT over the past year that he can be a heel too. I haven't been watching much NXT, but I've caught some heel Gargano, and it's not bad. He's really he's showing that he's not a one-dimensional character, and he can evolve. So wherever he goes, like I said, he doesn't have to be the main event. He can be. I have no problem with it. But like as long as he's just there, as long as he's getting time to wrestle, that's all we care about. So I can't wait for 2 weeks from now, like 3 weeks from now at a push, like. Because that's it. He can just show up. His contract's done. He doesn't have a 90-day no compete. He can show up in Impact the next day. He can show up in AEW the next day. He can go wherever as soon as he wants, and that's great. And I'll be curious to see what happens with Candice after this too, because she's someone who, man, like I don't think she's been like terribly booked, but like just I guess underused. I feel weird saying that about someone who does get time, but like I don't know. I just thought she was everything they love in a women's wrestler.
I think, unfortunately, because let me say, I am a gigantic Candice LeRae fan, and I agree with you. It's a weird case of she's used but not used the way we know she could be used. I think this is another sort of Taya Valkyrie situation where I think she's older than what they would like her to be. And I think that's ridiculous to say because she's not an old person by any stretch of the imagination. But I think her age is something that sort of always kind of worked against her. Like even in NXT, they book her in like that motherly role with Indy Hartwell. And I don't know. I was talking about this earlier with someone, and I'm a little concerned that they're probably going to freeze her.
You talk about wrestling with other people besides the podcast group?
I don't talk about wrestling as good. Like it's never as good as it is with you guys. I promise. It's just different.
Wow.
It's just different.
Wow,
I'm sorry.
Wow.
Jordan again, getting me in trouble. Wow. He got me props for Morrison, but not props for Candice. Damn it. I went to that well too many times. Damn it, Jordan. But I'm afraid that they might freeze her contract because of the pregnancy. They seem petty enough to do that. Although who knows? Maybe they'll fire her, or maybe they'll fire her while pregnant. Because who knows? Like I don't know what WWE is capable of firing now.
It could go either way. It really is. It's very kind of not entertaining, but funny that it can go either way. They can freeze your contract and make you stay when you don't want to stay, or they can just fire you while you're, birthing a child. Maybe she'll get her pink slip on the day the kid is born.
I was thinking it too.
You just can't put it past them at this point. I'm gonna, you know what? We were gonna talk about Dynamite because it was crazy, but I want to keep all this WWE stuff together. So we're gonna tease you a little bit longer. You know, you gotta edge a little more before you get to the good stuff.
Adam
But
Copeland? Adam Copeland Edge? What about Christian?
way to good save. Good PG save there. So Survivor Series happened, and if you saw our predictions, obviously you all definitely saw it. I won. I won that. You know, thanks Roman. Thanks for picking up the huge upset, beating New Day member Big E Langston. Yeah, I'm bringing back his last name.
Hey, there is no last names here.
No, it's on his birth certificate. It's there. It was a nothing show. It had some good wrestling on it, but it was a nothing show. I'd argue that Becky and Charlotte had the best match, and that match went on first. So, you know, it's kind of all downhill from there. The match was good. They kind of wrestled it more like not like a shoot, but they had that intentional sloppiness to it to make it have more of a fight feel to it, and it worked. It worked for me, but I was also someone who always has that looming dread that Charlotte is going to win a match that she shouldn't win. So you know, I was invested in the match as much as I try not to care when Charlotte wrestles, but I always care when Becky wrestles. So you know, that kind of cancels out the Charlotte thing, but. Becky picked up the victory. I actually, because I think it's debate. You can debate whether you like the ending or not, but I actually liked it because, well, one, it's Survivor Series, so it doesn't matter. Like, you don't have to beat the person decisively. Who the fuck cares? But two, Charlotte did a roll up, tried to grab the rope, got caught by the ref. Becky Lynch rolled her up and made sure the ref wasn't looking, and then grab the rope one lower so it's even more out of the ref's view. That's actually kind of smart. And it was a nice little detail that you don't see too often in the WWE's most overused finish, which is the fucking roll up. But this was at least a different variation on it. And the match was great. And post match, Becky cut a very, very emotional promo. Shed real tears. A lot of this promo did not seem to be in character. Talked about how her and Charlotte used to be best friends and they've drifted so far apart, and how they almost died in a car crash together a couple of years ago. She really just sprinkled in that potential life-ending moment so casually in this promo. And then she did another interview, not for WWE, for Ariel, what's his last name, James?
Holani. Holani.
Yeah, nailed it. She did an interview for him, and you know, echoed a lot of the same sentiments, and just talked about how she, you know, wasn't this wasn't like other matches she wrestled. And then Seth also did an interview where he was out of character and talked about how it was very uncomfortable for Becky to have this match with Charlotte, being all the history they've had, and you know, kind of alluded to the fact that the falling out is a real thing, that they are not close like they were, and maybe they don't outright despise each other, but that there's definitely something there. And you know, I speculated 2-3 weeks ago when we were talking about the title swap that I think there has to be real jealousy on Charlotte's part, because I think, like we were talking about, all of Becky's success and popularity, at least since becoming the man, has been at Charlotte's expense. And you know, I've joked a couple of times when talking about someone like Roman Reigns or whoever, and saying like, oh, like they had or Batista, like they had the nerve to not be Daniel Bryan, and like that's so fucked up of them. Like, how, of course you're gonna get booed because you decided to not be Daniel Bryan, you know. And that's what happened with Charlotte and Becky, except you know, it's, I guess the joke isn't as funny now because Charlotte ruined it because she's kind of a baby about it. But I just I don't think, and again, this involves a lot of speculation. I guess this is going to be our TMZ portion of the show, where we talk about gossip and rumors and stuff like that. Not that most wrestling news and rumors, but you know what I mean. Charlotte is just not the same person from what we can tell. And again, we only have so much of a perspective on this, but I've said it time and time again. I think she always comes across terrible in interviews. And I think she's one of those people who their perspective is so askewed and they're so deep in the bubble that they can't see things from the outside. And like a perfect but way less important example of this is, and we're going to talk about this, but I'm using an example now. Dana Brooke won the 24/7 championship, celebrated like she won the Royal Rumble, and then like all these other women's wrestlers are like, tweeting like, oh my God, this was so good. This was so good for the women's division. This was this and that. And it's like, you have to be so deep in the bubble that you think that this is serious, and no disrespect to Dana Brooke, because, I'll tip my hat to Dana Brooke, someone who has, stood there despite what a weird slow start, someone who definitely was too green to be there, but stuck it out and got herself over to a degree. And I'm not disrespecting the hard work that Dana Brooke put in, but I'm saying that for them to take her winning the 24/7 title this seriously, like it's this monumental thing, is kind of like shows that your perspective of things is very askew. You're too deep in the bubble to realize that no one outside of the dead center of this bubble feels that way, like about it, and everyone else is just like, it's kind of a joke. You won the joke title. I made a joke earlier about you winning the title because everyone knows it's a joke title, and like I think some people are there, and maybe that makes them good company people. I don't think so. I think it makes them brainwashed, borderline Stockholm syndrome. But I think Charlotte is one of those people, but in a more serious way. And I think she always comes across like that in interviews, whereas Becky has always come across as someone who is aware of what's going on, and is aware of how the fans feel, and is, she's deep enough in the bubble where she's gonna, wave the company's flag, but she's not too deep where she can't point out when something's dumb. Like she was the first person to point out how stupid her AI graphic is when she comes out. Like she's someone who is aware of what the fans are thinking. And I don't know. I did not mean to go on for so long about this, but it just happens when talking about Becky, and especially when Charlotte's involved. James, what did you think about their match Survivor Series? What did you think about all the fallout? Please.
I think you nailed most of it. I do think it was the best match on the card. I do think Survivor Series as a whole definitely, it had some good wrestling, even if, like you said, none of it actually matters.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think Becky is in the position she's in because she's really earned it, and she's very self-aware. And I think that was, to compare her to another great champion, she's very much like Cena, especially later Cena. Cena became very self-aware at the end. And like the last few years of his career, he knew what made him work, and he had his finger on the pulse of the fans. And I think that's what makes Becky so good too. It's like you said, Becky is capable of making that connection with the crowd because she feels like she's one of us to an extent. She's worked for it. It's been her dream. She gave up on it for a long time. I think 9 years she stopped being a wrestler, either because of injury or because she couldn't do it or whatever it was. And then she came back, and then it's been this beautiful Cinderella story for her. And then on the flip side of it, you have Charlotte, who actively says this wasn't her dream, who actively says this isn't what she envisioned herself doing, but she did it because of her brother. And in that own way, it's beautiful. You know, she's trying to live her brother's dream for him, and that is beautiful. But Bubble is the right word for it. She's the daughter of Ric Flair. She is wrestling royalty. And from the moment she got to NXT, from the moment she made it to the main roster, there was nothing she didn't do. And I'm not going to say she didn't earn it, because you know what? She is a great talent. Did she have a easier way of getting there than a lot of women? Definitely. But unless I'm really getting worked, unless I really am the mark that they want me to be, nothing about what Charlotte has been doing lately, nothing about how Charlotte carries herself lately endears her to the fans or to me. And maybe that's the point. Maybe she is supposed to just be a heel that we don't like. But even when she's a babyface, she never endears herself to the crowd. And that's not just storyline. That's not just kayfabe Charlotte. That's real life Charlotte, or at least how she presents herself. And it's always sad to see two great friends have a falling out. And it's always sad to see somebody with a high profile either not appreciate their position or to be ignorant to what other people are going through that wish they could be in her position. But yeah, this storyline has definitely blurred a lot of lines. And in terms of just Charlotte, I don't know what happens next for her. I mean, I guess we'll find out come SmackDown. But yeah, this was a very uncomfortable story, and the match itself reflected that. And I think it was definitely match of the night, like I said, like you said, but I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing how it happened, you know? I don't know, but yeah, a very memorable match. And Becky said it a couple times. It started in Brooklyn for them at SummerSlam years ago at this point. That was sort of like the birth of what would become the man. And now, by all means, I think this story for now is over and it's ending again in Brooklyn. So some poetry there.
Hopefully it's just over, because you know what, I will say that this was, I think, their best match besides the last woman standing match. So you know, good job making me feel that way about a match I really didn't want to see again. But and my one critique of the match, honestly, is really, I hate to just, you know, harp on Charlotte more, but like, Charlotte does this thing where she loses these matches and then she just like smiles about it in like a "you got me" kind of way, and like a "okay, I see what you did there," and you know, and that's okay sometimes. You know, it's not okay when you just had a blood feud match against someone who, in kayfabe, you despise, and in real life you might even despise too. Like, that's not how you sell that loss, because it kind of undoes all the accidental good storytelling that's gone into this match. And I just think that's a terrible way to sell a loss, especially in this situation. Like when she did it, when she lost the Rumble, like when she got eliminated by Rhea and Bianca, like it was kind of like, I didn't like it then either, but it's less egregious in that situation, especially being that she's won a Rumble and she'll probably win another one. But like, I don't know, I just didn't like it there, and I just wanted to nitpick that. But the other thing I was gonna say, like you were mentioning, it's like Becky feels like she was one of us, and I think one of the reasons that she has one foot in and one foot out of the bubbles and balances that so well is because her perspective wasn't always from the top. She didn't always have that view from the top. She was never going to be that person. She had her one title reign. That was going to be it for her. Honestly, if WWE was the way it was now, Becky would have got released in 2017. Like, she would have been one of those people that just got released, and No, she really would have. They weren't
Yeah,
doing
no,
anything
yeah.
with her. She would have. She met the criteria like of some of these people that have gotten released. Like hell, Nia Jax was above where Becky Lynch was on the card when Nia Jax got released. Like like Becky Lynch in 2016, 2017 was like lower on the card, and Nia got released, so Becky could have easily been one of those people. So like she's always had a level head about this stuff, and her perspective I don't think will ever be too askewed where she won't be able to see things the way we see them. She'll never. They may make her cut a "you people" promo on TV, but she'll never cut that. She'll never mean it, and she'll never be the one say. She'll never do that in interviews. She'll never be the one cutting a "you people" or blaming the fans, which is funny because it's something her husband would do. But I don't know now. Maybe his maturity. He's showing a lot of maturity now, so maybe
it's
we're
like I
turning
keep
over
telling
new leaf with that.
it's like I keep telling you, man, the lines keep getting blurred. I don't know what to believe
Yeah.
anymore. I'm getting worked into a shoot. I don't know, or I'm getting shot into a work. I don't know.
So this was the best thing at Survivor Series, but the most important thing by far coming out of Survivor Series, the most excellent thing coming out of Survivor Series was the infamous egg. Basically, The Rock is in a movie with Deadpool, and they're stealing eggs in the movie, right? It's like Ocean's 11 meets Hell's Kitchen or whatever. I didn't watch the movie, but so WWE is all about brand integration, and they do these amazing tie-ins, like when they had the zombie lumberjack match with Miz and Damian Priest, which is the exact spot the Miz should be in on any card. But anyway, they decided to do this with this egg, and supposedly The Rock gifted Vince McMahon the real Cleopatra's egg that costs $100 million, which someone looked it up. That's 1/3 of The Rock's net worth, and he just gave it to Vince. Fuck it. He's acted in like 10 movies this year just to pay for that egg, and now he's giving it away to Vince. He's going to give it away to someone on a wrestling show. When you give someone a gift on a wrestling show, it usually gets destroyed, showing that The Rock is just another dumb babyface. Someone stole the egg, and they decided to turn that into the only thing of consequence to happen on the pay-per-view. The only thing that mattered the next night was who stole the egg. And oh boy, was it dumb. And oh boy, was the payoff boring. Not even dumb, just boring. So Vince said whoever brought him the egg thief would get a WWE title shot tonight against Big E. Seems totally fair to Big E. And this could have led to some really, this is dumb. All of this is dumb. But they've already done it. They've already opened Pandora's egg, and you might as well go full-fledged into it. You could have had so many nice, funny, like heartbreaking, honestly, segments, because it'll be sad to see our favorites be used like this, but still ultimately kind of funny segments, interacting with Vince, trying to figure out who did it. Instead, you had 1 or 2 segments of the jobbers ripping apart the locker rooms looking for it. Very sad to see Rhea Ripley in that group. I don't like that. And then Sami Zayn had his interaction with Vince, and this was good. I would have liked more, but he was gonna bring Vince the egg thief, and bring him the egg thief he did. And the egg thief was Austin Theory, who stole the egg to take a selfie with it, and then was too scared to put it back because there was a lot of security, which begs the question, how did he get it in the first place? So he went to his hotel with it, and Vince, for some reason, liked his moxie. He liked the cut of his jib. Since he used whippersnapper, I figured I'd use cut of his jib. And then as a reward, he gave Austin Theory the title shot, and the egg thief Austin Theory, and not Sami Zayn. And the only real good thing I can say out of this is that nicely ties in to Sami's character. That's another conspiracy against him. And that is honestly the only good note coming out of this. And no, one of 2 good notes coming out of this. Austin Theory got a title match against Big E. shockingly, he did not win the WWE title off of stealing an egg. Why even steal an egg, if you're not going to become WWE champion off the back of it? But also, I kind of wish it was Matt Riddle. Like, I wish he got stoned and stole the egg. But that's neither here nor there. Austin Theory fought Big E. It was fun. It was refreshing to see someone different get a WWE title shot. I'm not big on Austin Theory. I see there is something in him. I don't know. He just looks like the kid from Where the Millers, but with a beard, like, to me. But yeah, James, I know your head has been scrambled, but you're the positive one. So do you got any sunny side up take on this?
It bothers me how many puns you had just readily available for all of that. Wow. I think the egg stuff itself is stupid. I first of all, it bothers me how poorly you described that movie. The egg stuff is stupid. It's a shame that the only way we got even near the Rock at Survivor Series was through that egg. But whatever. I love when they do silly stuff sometimes in wrestling. I think silly stuff has its place in wrestling. I think this was too much. I think it didn't. I agree with you. The best part about it is that Sami's storyline weirdly got a boost because of it with the conspiracy. Austin Theory, they clearly have plans for this kid because he made it to the final two of his team. He got a WWE title shot, and I like him. I see a lot of upside to him. I didn't imagine they would strap a rocket to him as fast as they have been, but okay, good for him, I guess. I am very, very glad that Jeff Hardy pinned him at Survivor Series. That is my highlight of the show. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm trying not to bury it because you know what? It felt like they, in their own weird way, they were trying. It felt like this was their little way of being fun. And even if it didn't work, at least it was something different. It was something different. And that's me being as positive as I can be. I think at the end of the day, you have to remember they're looking for a golden egg movie prop. That is supposedly worth
that was not a prop. That was not a prop. That was stated 3 times in a 2-minute span.
You're right.
It's not a prop.
You're right. And when you're right, you're right. But I would have actually loved to see Sami get the title shot just because who doesn't want to see Sami wrestle? But, it's that was a segment that spanned 2 days. And I don't know where you go from here. I don't think they do. But that's where we are. That's where we are right now.
Go
ahead.
You don't go anywhere. You don't go anywhere from that. That's it. All right. Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall and no one is picking him back up. That's it. He's dead. That's over and done with.
Yep.
You know what? I hope The Rock never comes back now. I really don't.
That's the secret. That's the secret. To get that match with Roman, it turns out the contract is in the egg. One day Vince is actually just going to smack it. It falls and breaks, and there's the contract.
No, it's going to break, and then it'll be the lockbox from his little feud with Shane when Shane came back, and inside that.
That's why he was so adamant about finding it. He couldn't have that secret out. Oh, God.
Well, we really cracked that one. Moving on. Just some quick stuff. Rocky Romero basically confirmed that the WWE New Japan talks were legit, and it was all pretty much centered around Bryan Danielson. And all I have to say about that is a true testament to how big of a commodity Daniel Bryan Danielson is that they were even considering talking to Japan. They actually extended that branch. So I don't know. I think that's crazy in and of itself, but I don't want to dwell too much on it. So James, you got anything on that?
I think you're nailing it. Brian is such an important factor for wrestling that doors that were cemented shut a long time ago are possibly would possibly be opened for him. And I don't know if I would have loved to see it. I think I would have loved to see it just for like the oh my god factor of WWE working with another company. But I think who New Japan is working with now is a lot better of a choice for them.
Yeah. I must say I prefer how things turned out. So yeah, I just thought that was neat. It's nice to like have a little bit of confirmation that that wasn't just a rumor and that they were actually willing to do that. Who knows how far they might go in the future. What? Oh my God, I don't even really want to talk about this. But Ric Flair.
Oh boy.
He oh God, don't listen to Ric Flair's podcast. Check quotes from it when it makes headlines, sure, but don't enable this old man. Not to be ageist or anything, but he's definitely lost a lot of his marbles, and I am trying so hard. I am to tie into what we were just talking about. I am walking on fucking eggshells here, trying not to fucking just rail into this man. I am. Oh man, I'm stuttering because I don't know why I brought this up.
You want me to take over?
Yeah, but I'm just gonna put it like this. Ric Flair is to wrestling in the year 2021 to what Kid Rock is to music in the year 2021.
Oof, I'm not going to make this like blanket statement for the entire podcast, but it's something that I think we're sort of making that decision. We are not going to cover everything Rick says moving forward. We're going to talk about him now because it's essential. He's going to be on the news a lot. The things he says are going to be talked about a lot, but at the end of the day, most of them are going to be nonsense. Most of them are just going to be a sad old man who is desperate for the limelight and is desperate for attention and for a paycheck. And it's going about it in some of the worst ways possible. And this is coming from a guy who respects the shit out of Ric Flair's career. I was there for his retirement match against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. It's grown men were crying in the crowd during that match. But that was a long time ago, unfortunately. And the Rick of today is far more willing to just sling mud and to talk a lot of trash, and not in a fun way. So Rick, I wish him the best. I really do. But the man needs to maybe just like quietly retire from whatever it is he's doing.
Like we were just talking about, talk about someone whose perspective is so clouded. Like, God damn, Rick, like you really are kind of clueless to the world outside the bubble, which is weird because you float in and out of the WWE bubble. But I guess in terms of the overall wrestling bubble, you are way too stuck in your ways. I don't blame you for being proud and always singing your daughter's praises. That's totally reasonable. As their dad, but like, man, you really seem to be out of touch. But I don't want to keep talking about you, Rick. So I am going to forcefully move on, like a helicopter in a plane. Brian Cage is a wrestler. He's on AEW from time to time, not recently, but his wife has become very outspoken. She's like a modern day Randy Orton's wife, and she is now for the second time in like a month, just pretty much aired her grievances with AEW not using her husband. I'm not going to say exactly what she said because it's a little convoluted. It's a little it wasn't well put, at least this time. I think the first time was a little more well put, but this time it was a little jumbled, a little all over the place, a little scrambled like an egg or something. But oh my God, I just realized we were talking about eggs earlier. Oh my bad. Sorry.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was totally an accident. But
totally, of course.
I like Brian Cage, and I do think he is a good upper mid-carder to occasionally float into the main event to chase for the titles. But if I'm being honest, I don't ever want him to be a AEW champion. Like, I'm fine with him being an Impact champion. I'm fine with him. That's about it, honestly. But like he is good. He is an asset. But I think his wife might be a little biased. I don't know, James. You seem like someone who likes Brian Cage, but also not too much. So, what do you think about his wife's opinions?
Weirdly accurate, friend. I do like Brian Cage. I think he is a very good big man. He is very different than the typical AEW roster member. And even more so when you think about when he signed with AEW, how he signed at a time where everybody sort of skewed smaller. So I do like Brian. I do like what he brings to a roster. I think he is a good talent. I agree with you. At this point in time, I don't think I would want to see him as AEW champion anytime soon. I'm not saying I couldn't have my mind changed on that. I like him enough that if the right storyline came along, I would, I'd be down for it. But I think it's telling that the first member of Team Taz is the only member to not be on TV right now. I mean, I know he's not with Team Taz anymore, but like, Will Hobbs is on TV. I like Willie. I like Will Hobbs. I like Powerhouse Hobbs, but why is he on TV and Brian Cage isn't? I think a good TNT title reign for him would be great. I think he could really show off, and I think he could not being in the main event, but being higher up on the card is exactly where he should be. And we've seen him do good things in the past. We've seen him be great on Lucha Underground. We've seen him be great in Impact. And that's why I know he's not quite reaching the potential that he does have, but I can't say that I'm personally clamoring for him to be the next big thing on my TV screen in AEW. So I don't know. I hope for better for him, but the roster is just so stacked right now that if he doesn't get fit in, I'm not missing all that much out, unfortunately. I think the best match he could have is with Kenny Omega. And that's not just because of Kenny being as good as he is, but because it's been a match that's been teased for a very long time. And when that finally does happen, I think it'll be a good dynamic between the two.
I think the best use of Brian Cage is for him to fight Miura. I don't know why that just popped in my head, but yeah, I think we're both on the same page about it. Like, we think his wife, I think her name is Melissa Santos, but I don't want to be wrong, so I'm not gonna say that confidently. But we we don't want him to be used the way she wants him to be used, but we do want him to be used more. And like we have no problem with him being used more, but just not to the extent she thinks. But yeah, I just thought that was a fun story. It just reminds me of like when Randy Orton's wife would get into arguments with people on Twitter a couple of years ago, and it just feels like it's giving me that same kind of vibe. So just to cover one more thing in the world of wrestling before we talk about Dynamite, because oh boy, New Japan is going to be working with Noah for Wrestle Kingdom, and that's a pretty cool. And you know, I'm just an expert on all things New Japan and other companies that aren't AEW or WWE, but I'm feeling pretty generous, and I'm going to give it to our upstart indie wrestling fan, the John Cena guy. What do you got?
I need you to know I came this close to wearing a Cena hat for this, but then I realized it was going to be in reverse because of the camera. So I didn't, and I regret it now because that would have been perfect. But New Japan, Noah, Wrestle Kingdom. We had been teased that Wrestle Kingdom was going to be 3 nights this year, which, as exhausting as that sounds, is sort of a big deal. There was a lot of speculation as to what that 3rd night was going to be. As they've already moved to 2 nights these last couple of years. There's a lot of speculation that 3rd night was going to be New Year's Dash, which is what they do every year, but it was going to have a lot more prominence. And instead, we're going to be seeing a super show of sorts with New Japan and Noah having, for the first time in, I think to my knowledge ever, working together. And we had a giant press conference. Tanahashi showed up, one of Noah's talents who I'm unfortunately not too familiar with. He showed up as well, and they were all hyping it up. And I don't think this is just going to be a show with guys on both, like just wrestling. You know, I don't think we're going to be seeing New Japan guys wrestling New Japan guys. I don't think we're going to be seeing Noah guys wrestling Noah guys. I think we're going to see New Japan and Noah crossing over. I know a lot of Japanese fans are very excited. I know a lot of American fans who don't have as much exposure to Noah as New Japan are excited. I'm excited. And I think there is just so much talent here that at the very least, if this is a one-off, it's going to be a memorable night for everyone. And it's going to do a lot for Japan because they're going to be donating, I think, a lot of the proceeds to helping out with just, you know, all the struggles going on during the pandemic over there. And yeah, I think New Japan and Noah are going to put on a hell of a show. And I don't know how it'll impact the rest of Wrestle Kingdom, because you're going to want your best champion representing the company. So I don't know how this affects their title plans, but it's going to be exciting.
Wow. Riveting stuff there, Jimothy. I totally hear you. I totally heard you. We are on the same page for sure, and that is page 4. So that is all the time we have to talk about this. Yeah, like I was saying, we have no more time to talk about all this wrestling news. What are we, a news channel? I don't know. We could be. We don't really have an identity yet, but we're going to talk about All Elite Wrestling. They have a show every Wednesday. It's called Dynamite. It's pretty good. It's a solid show. A lot of good stuff normally happens. And this week, it was a good show, but one thing stood miles above the rest because it was just fantastic. So this guy, right, first name CM, last name Punk, came out to wrestle a match in his hometown of Chicago. Why do they keep going to Chicago so much? What the hell? Oh my God. Like, I get it. They're a great crowd, but man, share the love a little more. Like, come on. But he came out to wrestle a match against professional bowler and dart player QT Marshall. And before that could get underway, MJF came out, and MJF is like, is a really good talker. And CM Punk is most famous for his Pepsi tattoo, and then he is second most famous for his talking abilities, like stuff like the pipe bomb, the contract negotiation 2 weeks later, which I still think is kind of better than the pipe bomb, but that's just me. MJF came out and he said a lot, and before I even get into what he was saying, this is not how dynamites start, like pretty much ever. They always start with matches. They usually start with sometimes one of the competitors is already in the ring, and not like because they're a jobber, but because they're just going to go right into the match and they have time. Like there's times where the Dark Order are already in the ring. There's times where the Elite are already in the ring. They just don't always have the entrances. That's how much Dynamite usually starts, with a match. This time, man, did it feel different, and man, did it feel like a big deal because of that. To the point where, MJF came out for his promo. CM Punk didn't have a microphone in his hand. He had to get a microphone like almost 10 minutes later when MJF was done talking for a little bit. But this promo was fantastic. I don't have it memorized because it just happened in our world. In your world, you've probably watched it once or twice on YouTube besides watching it on TV. But he called him CM Punky Brewster, which is something I would do, so I appreciate that. I'm just going to put some of the highlights, talk about how he was offended by Punk last week and how he was a gentleman and he stuck out his hand and Punk disrespected him. Like he disrespected everyone when he took his ball and went home for 7 years. The classic jabs you got to take at CM Punk. And then to continue, I guess is becoming a character trait of his, is to mention people who look like drug addicts. He said he's never thought a straight edge man could look so much like a meth addict, which I think is fantastic because I think a lot of famous straight edge people do kind of look like they do drugs, and it's a little surprising when you hear that they're straight edge. Finding out Darby Allin is straight edge was like mind blowing for me. So I thought that was a really nice line. He took the obligatory jab at Punk's UFC career. Totally fine. Honestly, nothing compared to some of the other stuff in this promo. And he ended the first part of his promo with what I thought was a nice little wrap up, because he said that the pipe bomb was Punk's best work, but every MJF promo is the best MJF promo. So he said, you drop pipe bombs, I drop nukes. Very nice. Can't believe no one's ever said that to him before. Very good. Punk's retort, I was a little worried because it's a little hard to follow up, He said he was disappointed in MJF. He said he thought MJF stood for my jealous fan, which is, whatever, that's fine. Nice little cute line. He said you had posters of me in your room, which got a nice O out of the crowd. I'm not doing it justice because it was a good line, but it's just funny that was one of the lines that got an O. And then he said, which I think is going to be the thing that, one of the things that sticks the most, he said he's just a less famous Miz, which, again, that's not even original. That's not even original because I think all of the internet has been comparing MJF to the Miz, but Punk is the first person to address it on TV, so it gets that kind of reaction from the crowd. And, I'd hate to disagree with Punk here, or not disagree, but I think I don't think comparing him to the Miz is fair. I think it's just because they look alike. They're nothing alike. Miz is garbage compared to MJF. MJF.
What is happening? Oh my God.
Compared to MJF. Oh. Miz could never cut a promo as good as MJF. Miz is a great WWE promo, and that's it. If Miz left that company, he would not be as good as everyone thinks he is.
Oh my God, this hurts.
Miz is great in the bubble. He is not good outside the bubble. He is good in the bubble. I don't want to disparage Miz too much because he is really good at his job in WWE.
Oh,
and that's the extent of it. But MJF is better than him in every single way. And as much as that pains you to hear, I think you know it's true. But MJF had some nice retorts, which I think he channeled our good friend and podfather Eric when he said that was almost everything he wanted from CM Punk, just like his return has been almost everything he wanted, which I think is a nice sentiment to the cynical fans who weren't happy with Punk just being happy to be there. He did a nice robotic imitation of Punk's promos so far, which have just been, I've been enjoying them because it's just nice that he's back, and it's been nice to go on the ride. But, it is time we roll up our sleeves and get into the nitty gritty of it. And MJF is well aware of that. He, basically says that nostalgia is a hell of a drug, and it makes everyone think that something was better than it was just because they have this fond childhood-like memory of it. And that's what Punk was. And maybe Punk wasn't as good as everyone remembers him as. And then he kept putting a lot of emphasis on CM throughout the first half of this promo, the first segment of this promo. He would say CM and just put a lot of emphasis on it. So then in the second half, that tied in nicely because he started calling him PG Punk. And I just thought that was a nice little touch. That was a nice little through line throughout his promo. And I thought that was pretty good. And he said, this one is cutting right to your heart, Eric. He said, you might as well come out here preaching hustle, loyalty, and respect, which is something that a guy in the other company used to say. I don't remember who he was, but I'm sure some people do. And he just talked about how great he was, that he's every promoter's wet dream, which is honestly true. Like, I don't think any promotion looks at MJF and be like, that's the fucking guy, and then he had a nice little line where you've always kept saying, like, maybe you never were the man, and maybe everyone rallied behind you because they thought you were being held down. But now you're here and you're not held down. You have all these opportunities, and maybe you just can't cut it. And maybe you've never been the best. Maybe you've always been second best, whether it was to the You Can't See Me guy, whose name I'm just totally blanking on. I wish MJF said it so I would remember who it was. Or the King of Kings guy, which is just a nice line. I don't think he was ever, second best to that guy, because that guy was a part-timer at that point. But anyway, that's a whole nother can of worms that we get into.
He never beat him.
I know. And that's the I've never forgiven Triple H for that. I think that was
that's who he was talking about? That's who he was talking about?
That's me speculating. We have no way of knowing. There's a lot of kings. We just had a King of the Ring. We just had a King of the Ring had his crown stolen by another guy who started being king. So there's a lot of kings out there. So who knows who the true king is? And maybe if Cody didn't smash a throne, we could have seen whose throne it was. Eventually, they would have came back and sat in it, but we'll never know. So Punk had another good retorts. He said, "There's some truth to what you said. Yeah, I was a little scared when I came back. I was scared maybe these people wouldn't care anymore. Maybe I don't have it anymore." He's like, "But I'm not scared anymore. I'm not scared of you." And he had line. He even admitted, he's like, the timing of this doesn't work, but he basically said the timing of this doesn't work, but it's such a good line, I gotta say it. He's like, I was selling out MSG while you were marking out for Rosie O'Donnell, which is a great line. But he's like, do you want to sing me a song, MJF? You want to sing? I was like, you made whatever it was, the New York Times last time you sung a song. He's like, and now you're going to make the New York Times again, but it's going to be in the obituary, which was such a good line. And then he followed up back to back fucking great lines from Punk. He said, you just enrolled in a college that your parents can't afford. Fucking beautiful. And then he had an amazing line about how he has been replaced as one of the four pillars by Britt Baker, which, I think I think that's a great line. I think it applies more to Jungle Boy than or even Sammy before the TNT title run. But yeah, still, again, Punk is just knocking it out of the park with this, and then expands on it a little more. What do I have here in my notes? Sorry, there's a lot in this promo, guys.
Remember, and you started off by saying you didn't have it all memorized, but you were doing a beautiful job of recapping it. I gotta say, bravo.
I honestly, I rewatched it right before we started, and I just started writing down all the big lines. But yeah, he said, damn, what did he say after the line about the college? Or no, about the pillars? Oh yeah, there we go. He's like, we'll be waiting around for you to have a moment when we'll have to wait for Tony Khan to have a daughter for you to marry, and just beautifully tied back in the supposed reference to Triple H earlier in the promo, which goddamn, they reference WWE a lot, or allude to WWE a lot in this promo. And then honestly, to me, the most important part is that once again on fucking live television, JR said dead ass. It's just, I will never not make note of JR saying dead ass. I think he said it during Revolution, during the pay-per-view. But he was like, I think CM Punk is dead ass. And I was like, oh my God. I don't even know what he said after that, because I was just like, he said it again. JR said dead ass. Oklahoma boy, JR.
Boomer sooner.
Using almost borderline outdated New York slang, dead ass. I mean, I'll never stop saying it, but they found a new word for that, unfortunately.
What is it?
But cap.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought cap meant lying.
Yeah, but the way people were saying, yo, I'm dead ass, you're saying no cap. It's like cap is it's more versatile than dead ass. I think that's why it's replaced it, because it's like no cap, that's cap. It's a lot. I don't like saying it. I don't feel comfortable saying it because I'm too old. I'm wearing a Pokemon hoodie, but I feel too old to say cap. But yeah, this promo was I think everything we've wanted from Punk. It's everything we wanted from MJF. It's everything we wanted from a potential Punk and MJF feud. And this promo, like the ones with Kingston, built like a match. It started off not even slow. It started off hot from the gate, but then it built and built. And yeah, I mean, James, I think I've talked enough about it. I need your perspective on this, please.
I think promo of the night, segment of the night. I think it's Punk's best thing since being in AEW. And that's crazy because I said this recently about Punk with his stuff with Eddie Kingston, but I think we're seeing Punk is just, he's back. This is Punk. He's had his warm up. He did his lap around, he jogged, and now he's going to be running, and I'm so excited for that. I think MJF is the perfect foil for a CM Punk of today. I'm nervous because the mark in me wants CM Punk just to shut him up and beat him, but I think MJF is gonna fucking win, and I don't want CM Punk to lose to this little jabroni, but it's gonna be great heat for MJF. I'm actually going to mention, again, I'm going to reiterate, you did a fantastic job of recapping that back and forth between the two, but I am going to mention one thing that you didn't, that I actually really loved, which was Punk referencing, one of the gripes MJF had was that when Punk was doing all his interviews and Punk was saying all the people he wants to wrestle and all the things he wants to do, MJF's name was never in Punk's mouth. And Punk said, that's by design. I never wanted to feed your ego. And I love that. But I also loved that he referenced how as soon as Punk got there, the first person he challenged was Darby Allin, the heart and soul of AEW, of the four pillars. He said, oh, that's got to kill you, doesn't it, Max? And he said, and I beat him, and I didn't need to use a little ring to do it. And I love that. It felt so reminiscent of what Hangman did to Bryan last week. which was, and I was able to beat him in under 30 minutes. And granted, now it's the veteran saying it to the young buck here and not vice versa, but it was just such a nice line. And I love that they reference, like, I know how weird it is to say that something that happened 2 weeks ago is their history, but I'm so used to the other company just pretending what happened the segment before isn't canon to what they're talking about now. So that was just, it was so nice, it was so good. And we're just seeing two of the best at what they do, which is just two great promo guys ripping into each other. It was, I think, 20 or so minutes, and it didn't feel like it. I was just waiting for the next line. I was waiting for what they were going to say next. And like, I love promos, but there's typically that point for me where I think, okay, well, you guys said the right line. Now it's just time to drop the mic and move on. But that never happened here. I wanted more, and it was great. And I'm going to say something that's bizarre, but it's true. I was very grateful that Punk had that match with QT Marshall afterwards. Because, like, I know how that sounds. I know that's whatever. But one, I love that AEW advertised a match between Punk and QT Marshall, and it wasn't that MJF just came out and hijacked it and it never happened. AEW delivered on a match that they promised, which is something they're very consistent about. And it backed Punk up as, like, granted, we all know it's QT Marshall. He's not going to win. But at the same time, Punk just talked a big game and then delivered a big game in the ring. And I love that. I love that. It was like a solid 35, almost 40 minutes of CM Punk on Dynamite tonight. And just every minute was captivating.
And it gave him a reason to be out there. Otherwise, you know, and not to compare it, it starts to seem like the other show where if MJF just came out and called out CM Punk, that I already made a big deal of this show even starting with the promo. But like that never happens. Even when someone cuts a promo in the ring, it's usually on their own and uninterrupted. And it's just the way it's formatted very differently. So like by having Punk scheduled for a match, you put him out there, then MJF does this. He's the one interrupting the show. The heel is the one interrupting the flow of the show and preventing you from seeing the match you were advertised. Like it's very neatly done. It's very simple, and it's just nice extra little details that, you know, make this already what would have been a home run segment like even better.
Totally agree. Totally agree. It's well known. I've always liked Punk, but I grew up at a point where it was like, you're either sort of a Daniel Bryan guy or sort of a CM Punk guy, or even like at the time, I'm a John Cena mark, you know, so Punk was always his biggest rival for the longest time. So I as much as I've always liked Punk, he was never my favorite part of any show. But Punk is, I can't even say that this is a different Punk than who we got in WWE, but this is just a more mature Punk, and I'm loving this side of him. Like, he has quickly become like the segment to watch for me. Like, if CM Punk's on the show, he's who I'm looking forward to seeing. And I'm very, very, very happy to see him thriving right now.
Yeah, absolutely. He has found a rhythm, and I think it's all just going to be nonstop good things from CM Punk from here on out. Be honest with you guys, that was by far the best part of the show. Not to disparage the rest of the show, it was amazing. Like, you got to see it. Go watch this promo at least twice, you know, to really grasp how good this was. Some minor notes from Dynamite. I don't like to say minor, especially being the match I'm going to talk about right now, but Thunder Rosa beat Jamie Hayter, and there was some slight dissension after the match because Britt Baker tried to interfere, didn't work out. She ended up super kicking Jamie Hayter, which caused the loss. She lost via roll up, so even though she got super kicked by her partner, they still protected her in the finish, which I thought was a little weird because it's Thunder Rosa, and I don't think anyone looks bad for just straight up losing to Thunder Rosa. But I think it shows that they have some interest in Hater and want to keep her looking strong. And then there was a Friendsgiving segment with Britt, Rebel, and Tony a little later, and it was cute. It was quick. I wish it was longer because I always like the Britt Tony dynamic. I think it's one of the best dynamics in AEW. Honestly, in all of wrestling, I love a good heel and face being friends. That was the best part of Drew's title reign, is his interactions with Sheamus when Sheamus was a heel and Drew was a face, you know? So I always like those dynamics. But anyway, I spent about as much time on that as the company did. There was a fun, I guess the word to use, tag match between Cody and Death Triangle and Andrade and the foreign heels. FTR being foreign for the sake of this Cody feud, because that's just how it goes. You know, it was whatever. Like, the wrestling was good. It's always good, but like, you know, who the fuck cares? The most noteworthy thing about this match was the fans throwing Cody's weight belt back into the ring, which, you know, is hilarious. Maybe don't do that, guys. That thing looks like it could have really hurt someone if you hit someone. It's like, maybe don't do that, but like, throw his t-shirts back for sure.
Admittedly though, Cody throws it into the crowd.
That's
like,
true. Yeah, so maybe throw it at Cody. You know, make it fair. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're right. You know what? Fuck it. Yeah, you know, who cares? He's throwing into the crowd. Who the fuck cares? Also, they dive into the crowd at AEW. So you know what? I'll walk back everything I just said. Throw it at them. I don't care. Just don't hit the referees. Hit the rest of their stuff. It's totally fine. You know what? Tackle them on the ramp. Who cares at this point?
We're full circle here, guys.
Yeah.
We started with fan interaction. We're ending with fan interaction. We condemned it at first, but now we're all for it.
Throw eggs at Cody.
Throw Twinkies at Cody, guys. Throw Twinkies at Cody. Follow by example. Just say sorry.
Nothing bad happened to him, so, you know, what do you got to lose? Nothing. So, yeah, that was, you know, whatever. He had the nice John Cena treatment of having his stuff thrown back repeatedly, which, you know, if you're a struggling John Cena or Cody Rhodes and you need someone to catch your stuff, throw it at a James. You know, look for one of those in the crowd, throw it at them. They will keep it.
I will. Cody, I will. I'll keep it for
Cody,
you, buddy.
I'd probably keep yours. Cena, I definitely throw it back.
You're full of it. If John Cena threw his shirt at you, you wouldn't keep it.
Dude, James, you've known me.
16-time world champion John Cena.
You've known me for 12 years now. Everything about my personality screams that I would throw it back.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. All right, fine.
So, yeah, do you know what? Look at that. We talked about the match more than I thought it deserved to be. So look at that.
One last bit about that.
Sure.
After the show, it was caught on camera. Cody teased walking out of the heel and tunnel, and then he went out the babyface tunnel instead. So either they are really just teasing us, they're really Adam Copelanding us, or I don't know, but just do it or don't. Turn him heel or don't. Stop with the teasing.
You know what though? I'll take any acknowledgement of it. At least he's playing with it instead of like trying to twist the narrative and make us think we're wrong for booing him. Which, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I'm still a little confused as to why we're booing him sometimes. Recently I get it, but like, you know.
Yeah.
Like when it started, I really didn't get it, but it's reached the point now where I do get it. But you know, we'll see. I just don't think you can be that delusional. I don't think you can dress as Homelander and think you're the good guy. Like, I just don't. I don't understand that. I've never even seen the show yet, and I still understand that Homelander's kind of a good guy. So, come on, Cody. I'm making a reference to something I haven't even seen, which is one of my specialties, honestly. But anyway, Cody, I'm going to cut you some slack and just move on. The other noteworthy thing from the show to me, anyway, was Daniel Bryanson took on Colt Cabana in Chicago, no less, because once again, they just keep going to Chicago. And I know we're from New York, so it's a little selfish of me to complain about that, but like AEW has not spoiled us yet. We got our one show, and it was amazing, but we've only gotten the one show. And I think that's bullshit.
We got Newark too. Like Newark was like meant for us too.
No. What do you? Okay, maybe you're a little too much in the freaking bubble that you're trying to lump the fucking New Jersey, New York area together.
Look,
like
man.
This is WrestleMania 29 or 35.
Look, man, I Newark was initially the only show we were gonna get. I remember when that show was announced in 2019. All right. I was just like, yeah, they're coming up to the Northeast. I'm happy. And that was supposed to be fucking blood and guts, and we didn't get it. So I feel bad for everyone in Newark. And I went to that show too, but I also went to Grand Slam, so I can't complain too much. But we've gotten some love, a little bit of love.
Yeah, but things are just a little unbalanced, you know?
That's it, yeah. I want more. Give me more. Fuck the fact that they're going to be here in 2 weeks. I want them now.
Yeah, fuck Long Island is what James said, I think.
Maybe. I don't know. In general, maybe, but
I'm
confused.
I don't have strong opinions on Long Island, so I don't really care. Fuck them or not, do what you want. Edge however you want, Copeland, But, so like I was saying, Daniel Bryanson was taking on Colt Cabana in Chicago, hometown boy. And they had a fun, ultimately not too long, but very fun match. Colt showed that he can still wrestle and seriously, not just what we expect from Colt Cabana. And Bryan just showed that he's a fucking monster and is gonna continue to just beat the shit out of people. Unbelievably, for a guy who was too small in one company, man, it sure is believable watching him kick all these guys' asses, 90% of which have been bigger than him. So the way he threw Colt for that German suplex, that was fucking crazy. And I had no issue with that. That didn't even seem unbelievable to me. He just tossed that guy. And then after the match, he was cutting a promo, talking about how last time he was in Chicago, which, wasn't that long ago because they keep going there. He got a different reaction, which is, very true. Way to stick it to the crowd, Bryan. And then as soon as he said Hangman's name, Hangman came out, which is nice because as soon as Hangman said Bryan's name last week, Bryan came out. Hangman came out in his gear. And from what I can understand, he is the heel in this feud because he challenged Bryan to a match right after Bryan just had a match. Like, what a bad guy. Is that what cowboy shit is? I thought cowboy shit was riding into town on your horse, going to the nearest saloon and shooting the place up.
I mean, you heard Bryan. He said, that's not cowboy shit. That's coward shit.
Yeah, and I think he's kind of right, Like, what a justified quote-unquote heel. God. That being said, it was still fun. And then he, he said, I'm not leaving here without a fight, offered Bryan the first shot. And yeah, they just scrapped for a little bit. And Hangman had the upper hand, stood tall at the end. And it was a nice follow-up. Man, I know a couple weeks ago I was saying I don't understand how you're going to turn Bryan heel or Punk heel, and I know Punk didn't turn heel, but we saw glimpses of what it could be like, and now we're getting that with Bryan, and I just God, I didn't kudos to AEW for making stars to a degree where the biggest stars they have can get booed because the crowd prefers these other people that are already here over them. I think that's great, even if I disagree, because you know what? There's not a world where I pick anyone in this company over Bryan Danielson, but the fact that it's possible for him to get booed is it's great. I think it's phenomenal. What did you think about this, James?
I loved it. I'm sort of in the same camp as you that it's hard for me to see Bryan as a heel here. I mean, it's not too hard. He literally kicked Colt Cabana's teeth out. Like literally, Colt Cabana's crown was on the mat and Bryan picked it up and used it as a trophy. So that is somewhat heelish. And flexing on your friend of 20 years as you're putting him in a submission hold, also a little heelish. But again, Bryan's not really doing anything different here than what he did against Kenny or Eddie Kingston or basically anybody else he's wrestled since he's been in AEW. It just so happens now he's doing it against people we like, which is the Dark Order and presumably eventually Hangman. Bryan did an interview either yesterday or today where he mentioned, like, I'm not a heel. I'm just me. Maybe it's you guys. And obviously that's Bryan selling this and doing a great job of it. But I'm like you, man. Bryan Danielson is my guy, and it's going to be hard for me to boo him against Hangman. And
he's right. I think we are the heels in this situation.
I think so too. And he used a word that he made very famous in WWE. Fickle. He used that word in his promo after the match tonight. And maybe it's true. The fans were getting ready to boo Bryan even before he said a word against Hangman. He didn't have that big a pop when he came out to confront Hangman. So maybe the crowd is fickle, and I'm not fickle. I am 100% a fan of Bryan Danielson, Daniel Bryan, BDB, and I'm very much looking forward to what comes next. He teased another match next week in Atlanta because there are Dark Order members from Atlanta. I would personally love a handicap match where he just decimates multiple members of Dark Order at once just to show him as this monster heel. Or just this monster.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
And the biggest one is Anna Jay is from Atlanta. Just fuck. Oh man. Like, I know it wouldn't happen. I know Tony Khan doesn't do it, but Bryan Danielson confronting Anna Jay and showing no fucking remorse for putting her in the label lock. Ooh, that's going to be a way to get a guy booed. That's going to be a good way to do it. But very good segment tonight. Another brutal match, another hard-hitting match. And I want to address something that you said about AEW building these stars that we prefer to the guys that are established already. I do think it's a testament to how well some of these newer guys are booked, but I also do think it's a testament to how good the established talent is that they can get the crowd to boo them. Like Bryan, like, I know we're talking about him not being a heel, but he is working the crowd. He worked the crowd last week. He worked the crowd again this week. And Punk with his stuff with Eddie. Punk was working that night, like that big promo battle they had too. He did what he could to make sure Eddie got some love there, and Eddie did get the love. So everyone is killing it. The veterans are killing it. The new guys are killing it. The booking is killing it. And man, it's nice to enjoy my Wednesdays and my Friday nights at 10.
Yeah. Great plug. When because you said like he was viciously laying into Colt Cabana before he started throwing those kicks in, he reversed Cole's move and he had both his arms. And I think Colt did a great job of selling dread and realizing like, oh no, like I'm in position for that. Like, and he almost, like you would if you're in a movie, like he kind of like cowered, like he knew it was coming, but he was also helpless to do anything about it. And he really felt the dread of him about to get his head kicked in repeatedly, very well. And like you said, he had a tooth knocked out or crown knocked out. Luckily, they always have a dentist on hand, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue. But I think, like we've said, it's just been phenomenal work by Brian. I think it's only going to get Hangman more over. I still am, I'm not going to lie. I want Brian to win still.
Me
I can't
too.
drop that. Like, I just want it. I've said it multiple times now. I don't want Hangman to have a long reign because I think you can still keep telling his story and he can still chase and it'll be great. But I do seemingly have a vendetta where I want people to, be two-time champions. I want people to continue to chase the title after they lost it, because I feel like everyone that drops the title feels a little directionless at first. Jericho felt directionless. Moxley felt a little directionless. Kenny has handled it the best by leaving, which, I guess throw in here. He is vacating the AAA title because he needs to go heel. So we'll give you some of the details on that, I guess. But I don't know. I had more I wanted to say on this, but all my thoughts are all over the place. But this has been great storytelling. So do you want to give us the deets on the AAA title scene right now?
For sure. But before I do, I will just say I've already got my fantasy booking for Brian set for the next 6 months. So AEW better live up to my expectations. They always surpass them, but I am.
So we were just talking about not too long ago, about because we were doing our full gear predictions. I think Chad had both Punk and Brian losing. And I was kind of like, you're going to do that on the same night? Like, in my head, I was like, how can you even do that, near each other? How can you have both of them just lose? They've just got here. And I'm like, at the time, I was like, I don't see a world where they lose anytime soon. And just a couple weeks later, I see that world. I see Punk losing to MJF.
Yep.
I won't be mad if he beats him. I'm not going to lie. I think it works no matter what happens. And the same thing with Brian. If Brian beats Hangman, I know a lot of people would be upset, but I think it'll be good heat. And I think there's just so much potential with Brian. And, as a company decision, I don't blame you for putting the title on one of them. I don't have a problem with that. Be a fan, right? Don't be a booker. Don't be an armchair booker. You tell me you don't want Punk or Brian to be the fucking champion there? Are you kidding me?
Hell yeah.
So I think there's, as much as our gut reaction might be to be mad in some of these situations, I don't think there's bad outcomes. And the fact that I'm just 3 weeks removed from thinking it's way too soon to beat either of these guys, the fact that I wouldn't have as much of a problem with it now is just, again, another testament to how good they are, how good AEW is, how good AEW's already established stars before these guys got here are. I don't think I see a world. I mean, I still want Brian to beat Hangman, I'm not going to lie, but it makes sense for Hangman to beat Brian, and it's a great feather in his cap to be the first person to beat Brian. And, it's not like Brian's won every match. He lost the tag match, and, he didn't beat Kenny Omega. Also, he repeated a finish this match.
He did, first time. First time.
So he's running out. That's it. He's got to ask Jericho for his fucking list of holes and figure out some more to win with.
Well, I mean, I think the first one would be an armbar, right? If I'm not mistaken.
But
I think Jericho would.
Already?
Did he? I mean, I was doing this for a bit about Jericho, but I don't remember.
I know.
I'm sure. I wouldn't be surprised if Brian did win with an armbar, but I am right there with you. I was in that same world of I couldn't imagine a world where Brian and Punk would lose in the same night and everything. Now I think that's going to be a reality. And I think probably Winter is Coming is going to be where it happens. But I'm weirdly on the boat of I want Bryan and Punk to be a heel tag team that just rips through the tag division. Like I kind of I know what we were just talking about. We shouldn't be like a booker. We should just be a fan, and I'm gonna be. But no, that's the beauty of what we were talking about. No matter what outcome we get, Bryan winning the championship, Bryan losing to Hangman, Punk beating MJF, MJF beating Punk. There are so many beautiful possibilities that can come from all of them, and they're all fun and exciting. So
and I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to like fantasy book. I think it's more like what I was saying is like more in the lines of like, don't do what we do with WWE and say like, oh my god, this is the wrong decision. You made the wrong decision. This that. Like you can totally, because I want Punk and Bryan to interact. Like we're all dying for that first interaction. Punk keeps mentioning Bryan. Bryan is not mentioning Punk. Love is not reciprocated so far on TV. But like whenever that happens, like, you know, if they wanted to do it soon, how can you blame them for that? If they hold off on it, unbelievable. We keep talking about Adam Copeland and, you know, this show. So like, if they want to keep doing that, oh my god, impressive that you can hold out for that long. Like most people can't even get through November, and you're holding out for fucking months. Like that's crazy. But man, I threw to you to talk about something, and then we just
that's my bad. That's my bad. We're being marks right now. We're marking out right now. We're marking out hard. But you're right.
No, it's my bad. It's my bad. The egg is on my face. Okay.
Damn it. That's that. I deserve that. Anyway, Kenny Omega, the AAA championship. AAA announced that Kenny is going to be stripped of the AAA Mega Championship, and this is bittersweet news because yes, we all know Kenny needs the time to rest and he needs to heal up. I thought he already was a heel, but apparently he needs to heal up even more. And it sucks because Vikingo looked like he was primed to take the title off Kenny, and Kenny is the longest reigning AAA Mega Champion. But they've already announced the replacement match to decide the new champion. It's going to be a multi-man match. Vikingo is still in it. They announced the first. They announced the other two challengers. First being Samurai del Sol, Kalisto, formerly known as Kalisto, and Jay Lethal. So it's looking like it's going to be an exciting match. More men are to be announced. And, you know, it's a sad way to see the belt collector gimmick officially end. But hey, at least Kenny can say he didn't lose 3 championships. He was stripped of 1. And he cut a very good promo on social media saying that, you know, he hates the fact that he's being stripped. He is going to come back for the championship when he's fully healed. And I think it was good. I think it was very good. It's a good way to make a bad situation better. And again, more just love to Kenny. Hope he starts feeling, I hope he's feeling better. I hope the surgeries go well. And good luck to AAA with their next Mega Champion.
Yeah, well put. And there we go. We've supposedly Brian Cage will be added to this match, and that ties into what we were saying earlier. So, you know, I hope you're happy, Melissa. Yeah, I hope you're happy, Melissa. You seem like a lovely person. But yeah, so we talked about it all today. We talked about fans. We talked about eggs. We talked about pipe bombs. That's all the things, you know. That's a wide span of things. You know, we went where no podcast has ever gone before, and that's kind of what we do here. We really push the envelope. You know, we tackle the hard-hitting questions.
I've been sitting on the Adam Copeland of my seat the entire night.
Exactly. And now that we're almost done, you can. Trying to think of a subtle way to put this, and I really don't have one, but you know, you can just you can release yourself of that burden now that we're coming to a close here. I know it's sad. I know, you know, no one likes for the fun times to end, but unfortunately, the fun times have to end because we have nothing else to talk about. I mean, that's not entirely true. Like, we can talk about birds, we can talk about war, we can talk about a lot of things, but so far, none of those things have to do wrestling. Actually, that's not true. Both those things. There's war games coming up, and who knows what was in that egg? It could have been another bird. So,
Damn
both
it.
of those. Yeah. So that was a bad example on my part. That's apologies. I wasn't exactly prepared to host this time, so that's why I really dropped the egg there on that one. But thank you guys so much for watching to this point. Thank you, Chad. I know you're not here, but I know you're here with us in spirit and you're watching. Thank you, Rev. I know you're at the bar right now, but thank you. Thank you, David. I'm not gonna make a joke because you produce the show. Thank you, Eric. Your kind words always give James the motivation he needs, not only to get out of bed in the morning, but to put that backtrack up and to get on this podcast. Thank you, James, for being here with me. I didn't call you a different name other than your own once this whole time, and for that I apologize to you and I apologize to everyone. It felt too personal, to do it. It's just you and me. Everyone watching, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. I hope you didn't die on Black Friday trying to get a really good sale, especially because we need all the views and subscribers we can get right now. So please don't do that to us. Pretty selfish of you to die on Black Friday when, we need you to watch our podcast or listen to our podcast.
How else am I going to rap for you guys? Like, come on.
Yeah, come on. Like, after he raps, die all you want, like, you've lived life to the fullest at that point. And trust me, this will be the most fulfilling thing in your life. I promise. It is worth Adam Copeland for that long. I promise you. But this has been another fantastic 9 out of 10 episode of the Mark It Down podcast. And yes, I am level-headed enough to say that it's only a 9 out of 10. You guys haven't earned the 10 out of 10 show yet, but we're getting there. Thank you so much for watching. For Jimothy, I am still a little Karibo. Thank you for watching. Follow us on social medias if you want.
Please.
No big deal.